Hey there, looking at Pantera's album, Great Southern Trendkill from 1996. What was I guess it was their fourth album. Um, and to be honest, I was never the biggest Pantera fan. And even now, if someone asks me, do you like Pantera? I would probably say no. Well, no, I wouldn't say no. I say, oh, they're okay. I wouldn't say I don't like. But I don't know. There was always something about them that didn't always appeal to me. Some of their stuff. This album is probably my favorite album of theirs. Um, and when I say fourth album, they had a lot of earlier albums. Like, cause I guess there's the period of Pantera, the glam metal era. They had a few albums in the '80s before Phil Anselmo joined. But I'm talking about Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power, Far Beyond Driven, and then this one being the fourth of the what the '90s era, the metal era. Um, I don't know why I don't like them exactly. A lot of it, I think, is to do with the people who did like them. A lot of people I really didn't like when I was young at high school liked Pantera, and so I think I automatically just disliked them for that reason. Some of the biggest pricks you could imagine in school were fans of Pantera. Um, and they there was always that kind of stuff around them that they were racist as well. Whether does that really, and I guess that opens up the whole discussion of separating the artist from the music and all that kind of stuff. But I never really needed to do that because I was never really the biggest fan of them. Although I had friends, like I said, there were some people who I didn't like them. I also had friends who did like them. So I heard Pantera enough to form my own opinion on the sound. But it's that kind of the groove, they call Pantera groove metal. But it's that the groove thing that I don't like. It's something about that doesn't appeal to me. I know this is going to be sacrilegious, and maybe some people would get really angry about me saying this, but I never liked Dimebag Darrell's guitar tone either. Why? I don't know. It always sounded a bit tinny to me, and that might just be the mix. Like Terry Date did all their albums, or at least the ones I just referred to. They're the '90s ones, and Terry Date has done a lot of big time metal albums through the '90s and 2000s. And some of them, if I look through a list of Terry Date's albums that he's produced, a lot of them I think, oh yeah, I like that one, I like that one. But there was also some that yeah, I feel like he does have a bit of a tinny production sometimes, and I'm not sure if that's really describing the sound of which I'm not a fan or not. But anyway, this album. So I got this for $1, and it wasn't in the greatest condition. I've changed the back case part because this is all smashed when I bought it, and this was completely missing. So I took out a spare one I had on another disc and I put that in here. The disc itself is actually okay. Can't really see anything there, but there are a few little scratches, but it plays fine. Um, the front case wasn't smashed, but you can see it's got a sticker reflection and one scratch across it. So yeah, Pantera were pretty big when I was a kid. I say big for a metal band, especially. And Pantera are, or were, I should say, the Abbott brothers, Dimebag Darrell Abbott, Vinnie Paul Abbott, drummer, Rex Brown, bassist, and Philip Anselmo, the vocalist. And what I like about this album, like I said, this is probably the album of Pantera's that I enjoy the most. Is how would you describe it? It's got a bit more kind of. Uh, it seemed like lower. Like I was saying, Terry Date's production can sometimes be a bit tinny, and I find Dimebag's guitar tone to be a bit tinny and thin. This album doesn't have that sound as much. Songs I like on this: War Nerve, Tens. I like the song Tens. That's a great song. Um, I don't like Drag the Waters. I remember that there was a single and they had the video for that when I was a teenager. I used to see it on TV. I never liked that song. There's something disjointed about that song that I don't like. Suicide Note Parts 1 and 2, they're both pretty good. Floods. Floods, I think, is probably my favorite Pantera song. Full stop. Although, I don't know. On the other albums, I like Goddamn Electric from Reinventing the Steel, and the earlier albums I like fucking Hostile and I'm Broken. Um, I guess for for someone who says they're not a fan, there's actually quite a few songs I do like. But this album's got quite a dark feeling to it. The other Pantera albums always had not a brightness. How could you put it? A feeling that there was always. I'm trying to think of the word to say, but not as dark. Let's say they had more of a life in them. Mm. Describing music that you don't really like is hard to do. Uh, whereas this feels like quite a lot of like despair, a feeling of despair in this album. Sometimes I feel, and from reading a bit, I read um, Rex Brown's autobiography, and I also read other bits and pieces through the years, like making of the records of different records, and this was the period where Philip was pretty withdrawn from the band. Like I think he recorded his vocals in New Orleans in Trent Reznor's recording studio, Nothing Records, and the rest of the band were recording in Texas where they lived. So they were never actually working together while doing the album, which I guess nowadays that actually happens quite often, doesn't it? Artists of different sides of the world collaborate to make albums. But for this band, who were up until this point maybe tighter, as in working together and more of a cohesive unit, they were kind of at least Philip was drifting apart from them, and he was also at this stage involved with heroin, from what I remember, because it was around '96 where he had that overdose after one of their shows, I think in Dallas, and so we all I think we all understand what heroin can do to band relationships. So maybe that some of that kind of seeps through into the music, that it just feels kind of like lower and darker in some kind of way. But yeah, it's not a bad album. And like I said, as far as Pantera goes, it's the album of theirs that I enjoy the most. Um, yeah, kind of feel a bit stilted talking about this album because I don't know why. I feel I don't like it enough. I've talked about albums before that I don't like, but it's just I don't know. Um, so obviously the two brothers passed away. Daryl particularly tragically getting murdered on stage, which is just crazy. It's like even what is it? It's coming up 20 years ago soon, isn't it? Was it 2004? 2000, I think it was 2004. Yeah, it was 2004. So we 20 years next year, December. Um, even 20 years later, it's still is so crazy what happened. It's like something out of a book or a movie or something, like getting killed on stage while playing. Um, and then that, the band, Pantera was inactive at that stage anyway, because there was all sorts of drama between Phil and the rest of the guys, this particularly between Phil and the brothers. And then Vinny passed away. Was it 2018ish, 19, of a heart attack? He's always a pretty big guy. I wasn't that surprised that he passed away when he did. But the relationship had never been repaired between Vinny and Phil, and Vinny was pretty clear about it. He wanted nothing whatsoever to do with Phil. He didn't even want to. When interviewers brought it up, he was just, the interviews that I read at least. He didn't even really get particularly angry. He was just like, I don't want to talk about it. As far as I'm concerned, that guy doesn't exist. Pantera is never ever getting back together ever again. I have no interest whatsoever working with the guy. That's it. Let's move on. I guess he got asked about it so much. And Phil, in his defense, not that can really defend, but well, he uh, pretty much as soon as Daryl had died, he felt remorse for what had happened between them and the things he had said, or whether he said it or didn't say it. I think he did say it, but and he kind of at least tried, I guess, to kind of build a relationship together with Vinny. Yeah, who knows what he really did behind the scenes, but now they've got this thing going at the moment, this so-called Pantera reunion with Zach Wilde on guitar, and is the guy from Anthrax, Charlie, whatever his name is, I think it's him, on drums, and Rex and Phil from the original band. Seems a little bit, I don't know, a little bit of a money grab, to be honest, because I don't know. They both the two the Abbott brothers. Pantera was their band. They formed it, and they were in it for a long time before Phil even joined it. And they were quite unequivocal in what they thought of Phil and that what their relationship, that it was over, and for him to kind of just restart the band without them, and then say some I don't know. And then I can see the other side of it as well. No. Anyway, so yeah, getting a bit off track there about the album. Uh, Pantera, the Great Southern Trendkill. Not a bad album. I'm sure if you're a Pantera fan, Pantera fans do tend to be quite rabid. So if any Pantera fan watches this, I'm not saying the band is shit or anything. It's just they were never really to my taste. I can appreciate their success and their what they did for heavy music in the '90s. They kind of kept that torch burning when a lot of other heavy music was a lot of other heavy bands are kind of discarded, like Metallica and Megadeth were kind of trying to go for the U2 sound for a while there. Um, yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks. Bye.